Warning, do not watch this video unless you want to become a flat earther.
Be very careful, Mr. Sensible. You might just become a flat earther.
So you've all had fair warning. Be very careful. This video may just make you become a flat earther or not. Roll VT.
Warning, do not watch this video unless you want to become a flat earther. You say yeah right, but I guarantee you that you don't actually know what we believe.
I think we probably do, but go ahead.
And if you let yourself watch to the end with an open mind, you'll find out that it's actually you that's been hanging on a belief system, on a religion as it relates to the globe.
Well, we will find out. I have an open mind. Present your evidence.
You'll also develop a newfound respect for this group of people that support this channel and who are so willing to be called stupid, so willing to be looked at as idiots.
Why would we develop respect for people who are happy to be thought of as idiots?
For simply questioning the narrative of what they're being told. Because the reality is, no one becomes a flat earther by seeing the floating pancake. Yeah, we think that's ridiculous too.
Then why do you follow that belief? Are you saying that the flat earth is not a floating pancake? If it's not floating, what's it sat upon? Elephants, turtles, or some other wild beast?
We become flat earthers by studying and finding major errors in the heliocentric model and actively pursuing truth, which I guarantee you is harder than passively absorbing a lie.
I don't think you find errors. You just misunderstand the most basic of things. And as for seeking truth, well, if you're presented with evidence that goes against what you say, you need to question it, not just turn around and say you're lying.
We probably actually know more about what you believe than you do. Remember, we used to be you.
You were me? I don't think you were ever me, or you would not be going down this path.
So trust me when I say that any objection that is currently or is about to arise in your mind, we've already dealt with ourselves.
Okay, fair enough. Present your evidence, sir.
And if this thing was truly easily debunkable, none of us would still be flat earthers.
Oh, I think it's been debunked so many times. It's unbelievable, and yet you still ignore all the evidence against it.
Have you not wondered why someone would believe in something so stupid as flat Earth?
Yeah, we've not come up with an answer yet.
Why people don't mind being called idiots? Maybe it's because it's not that stupid.
Or maybe they're just happy flogging t-shirts. It's a way to scrounge a few quid off some gullible people.
Maybe someone wants you to think it's stupid. Maybe someone is working really hard behind the scenes to make you think that we believe in a square pancake flying through the solar system that you could just step off of and in the nothingness of space.
I haven't mentioned a square. That would be that biblical reference to the four corners of the earth. I'm happy for it to be a circle, if you like, but if it's not floating, what the hell is it sat upon?
But again, I assure you, we think that's ridiculous too.
Oh, good. Good. Well, I look to see what you've got then.
Nor do we have anything to do with the Flat Earth Society. I've attended and spoken at conferences all over the US and Canada and met thousands of flat earthers, and
Get
not
on with
once,
it.
never have I met someone associated with the Flat Earth Society. That is an organization of half-truths and idiotic science. Okay? We are simply people in search of truth who hold empirical, measurable, repeatable science as well as ancient accounts on a higher level than mere theoretical mathematics.
I don't think a flat earther is ever, apart from one or two people like Ranty Flat Earth, I don't think a flat earther has ever held evidence up very highly, because all the evidence is against the flat earth and for a rotating globe.
And last thing before I get going, I want you to know that they are banking on you not questioning this.
They? Ooh, conspiracy.
Hoping to their God with a lowercase g that you do not look into this, because they know if you do, you're going to have some major questions that unfortunately have no warm and fuzzy answers, which is why they've worked so hard to keep the flat earth, the perception of flat earth, as a theory that only morons could believe in.
That's because it's a theory that only morons could believe in.
So sit back, relax, and I promise you will not regret it.
That's a promise. I hope I don't regret watching this. We shall see.
As I mentioned earlier, it wasn't the words flat earth or the fact that the flat earth theory has all the answers, because it doesn't.
It certainly doesn't. When you say it doesn't have all the answers, I'd go so far as to say it doesn't have any of the answers.
And it certainly wasn't the social consequences that drew us in.
Oh yeah, there must have been really good gigs going to a flat earth conference with a load of other people who also have absolutely no idea about reality.
But for most of us, it was the questioning of the globe model which ultimately brought us to flat earth.
Well, questioning is fine. Questioning is good. I would always encourage people to question, but you need to look at the provided answers.
So here's some questions that reveal some things that I didn't even realize I believed in by believing in the globe.
This will be good.
Why is it that even though the Earth spins at 1,000 miles an hour at the equator, goes around the sun at 66,000 miles per hour, which travels through the universe at 500,000 miles per hour, which is expanding at over 1,000,000 miles per hour, are we able to take a picture of the sky on the same day every year and never see changes in the stars?
Right. You can't feel velocity. You can only feel changes in velocity. And why you see the same stars? Because they're so far away. But actually they do move. Have a look at Barnard's star. Over just the course of a handful of years, you can see it has moved.
For thousands of years.
So you're wrong there.
Why does Elon Musk say, you can tell it's real because it looks so fake?
I don't know. Ask him.
That's because it does look fake. Look how the Earth glitches out in the background, but the car doesn't. And see how the Earth supposedly looks from the International Space Station, which is 240 miles up. However, this was taken from only 170 miles.
Well, I don't know the height of the Tesla, but different cameras, different focal lengths, and different zooms and so on are going to produce a very, very different effect.
Do you see an issue here?
Yeah, you've got no bloody idea.
It's just like the Red Bull space jump in the Mythbusters episode that used downward-facing fisheye lenses to create massive amounts of curvature.
I'm sure they didn't use it to create the curvature. You use wide-angle lens so that you get a wide view. As a byproduct of that, the image is distorted. That's all.
But the non-fisheye lenses from the capsule and the cockpit show flat horizons.
How do you know that that's flat? That's such a narrow field of view that any curvature is not going to be noticeable. If you want to see curvature, have a look at my MAGE, Mission Above Globe Earth, because at 38.5 kilometres with MAGE and a narrow angle camera, you can see the curve of the Earth.
Which concur perfectly with weather balloon footage more than 20 miles up.
Or not.
Which, by the way, 20 miles high is roughly the size of the bulge that should be in the state of Kansas due to it being 413 miles wide. Here's what 20 miles up looks like. That would be a large bulge for something that is supposed to be flatter than a pancake.
You're not going to have a 20-mile bulge. You've got drop, curvature drop. It would only be a bulge if you were looking through the chord. That would be the sagittar.
And by the way, Kansas is only the 9th flattest state in the U.S. How many pieces of flat land does it take to make a ball?
Flat just means there are no or very few hills, mountains and valleys. It means it's got the same elevation. It's still curved.
Why, when we look at the stars in December, do we see the same stars that we see in June?
Because they're in the sky. At different times of the night, at different times of the year, you can see different stars, but there's overlap as you go throughout the year. In midwinter, we would not see the same stars you see in midsummer.
We should be looking in two totally different directions. If ships sail over the curve of the Earth, why are we able to bring them back into view with high-powered lenses?
You can't, with that ship, that's a ship that's so far away that without the zoom you can't resolve it, and when you zoom in you can. Once it starts going over that curve, or it has gone beyond the curve, you can't see it. Try a telescope or something and see if you can see the land on the other side of the ocean. You won't be able to. Not because of any particular power of telescope, but because it's beyond the curve of the Earth.
If they merely sailed past the horizon of the eye's angular resolution. Why are we able to see things over long distances, which according to the formula for a ball with a circumference of 24,900 miles, should be thousands of feet below the curvature horizon?
Those buildings, I think it was the Chicago skyline, are brought into view due to refraction. They are beyond the geometric curve, but the distortion in the atmosphere brings it back into view under certain very specific conditions.
And now, with infrared technology, we are seeing things that should be miles below the horizon.
Well, you need to ensure that you can see the very bottom of those mountains. I bet you can't, because they're beyond the curve.
If we truly lived on a ball. If Eratosthenes proved the Earth was a ball thousands of years ago with an experiment using shadows, why do experts say that his results should actually be the same on a flat Earth with a smaller local sun?
Well, it might be that they would be the same if you had a smaller local sun. Only it isn't.
If the sun barely looks bigger than the other stars from Saturn, why is it able to completely light it up so that we can see it from Earth?
Because it's so close, the light hasn't faded with distance.
And if something merely the size of the other stars can do that, why is the backside of Saturn not lit up by the billions of stars on the other side?
Because the light from stars is very, very faint. On a clear night, you can get shadows cast by the moon, because that's brighter than the stars. It's nowhere near as bright as the sun. It's just to do with the amount of light that's reaching us. And the stars, with their stellar distances, aren't shining much light on us.
And why are there dark sides to any objects in the solar system? If moonlight reflects the warm light of the sun, why is moonlight measurably cold?
It isn't. That's been tested time and time and time again. If you are taking the temperature in the shadow, that's because the area is sheltered, and so it's retaining heat.
Why is it warmer in the shadows at night when it's the exact opposite of what we experience in the sunlight during the day? How is it possible that our positive atmosphere sticks to this ball right next to the negative vacuum of space without a barrier?
A negative vacuum? What's a negative vacuum? A negative vacuum is stuff being there. And our atmosphere is not right next to the hard vacuum of space, is it? Because as you get higher, there is less and less atmosphere. It's declining in a gradient until the area that is right next to space is barely different from space at all.
How is it that people claim to see lights in the sky that are the International Space Station and other satellites?
Because you can see lights in the sky that are the International Space Station and other satellites. I've seen many satellites. I've seen the ISS. I've filmed the ISS with my phone as its path was predicted by a website. Those are man-made objects.
When they do not have lights on them.
You don't need lights on them. It's reflected sunlight. And in fact, if you're tracking the ISS, you'll see it suddenly disappear as it goes into the shadow of the Earth, which would be impossible if the sun was not below your position.
And due to their supposed distance off the ground, the sun wouldn't have the ability to reflect light off them.
What? What's going to stop the sunlight? The sun is 93 million miles away, approximately, and it lights up half of the Earth. And you don't think it would have enough energy to light up a satellite because it's a couple hundred miles up or whatever?
Let alone the fact that I do not believe you could see a satellite, something the size of a pickup truck, 250 miles away, even if it was lit by the sun.
A satellite is not the same as a pickup truck. And have you not seen the Starlink satellites? You get a whole cluster of them going across in a line just after they had been launched. and having never been seen before, that would indicate that there are objects up there that we've put up there.
That's like saying you could see a vehicle in Oklahoma City while standing in Dallas.
Not really, because the vehicle in Oklahoma City, first of all, would be around the curve. Secondly, you're going to get trees, buildings, mountains or whatever in between. And thirdly, it's not against a pitch black background, is it?
How is it we supposedly went to the moon 50 years ago, but now we can't leave low Earth
That's the
orbit?
farthest that we can go.
Well, we could leave low Earth orbit. The problem is our electronics are now a lot more delicate, much more advanced, but more susceptible to the radiation. So we need to protect against it.
Why are the pictures of Earth from space described as composite images?
Well, lots of them are composite images. If they're taken from satellites that are fairly low, they need to be made of composite images. A composite image is not a problem. If you take one of those panoramic views with your camera and you swing the camera around, it's actually stitching together images. It's still real.
Using ground-based observations and Photoshop to fill in the gaps.
It's not ground. How could you photograph the Earth with a ground-based observation? Weird.
Why was all the original moon footage and telemetry data destroyed?
This old chestnut. We still have all the data, the important data. The original physical tapes were lost and believed to have been written over. What was the problem with that? Because the data had already been copied. It's secure. We have all the data.
Why is NASA constantly getting caught on live feed?
That was a reflection just beyond my head, a reflection of an astronaut who was inside the shuttle, reflected off a window.
With men in the background of models, harnesses on the International Space Station, and bubbles and scuba gear in space like they're filming spacewalks in a pool.
They don't film spacewalks in a pool. As you can see from her face, everything's distorted when you're underwater, making her head look absolutely tiny. That doesn't happen with shots of astronauts who are spacewalking. And yes, they do practice in pools because that's the closest we can get to a neutral buoyancy, being a rough equivalent to being in zero or microgravity. They're not hiding it.
Why is YouTube hiding true flat Earth content and promoting the ridiculous false perception of the floating pancake?
Because they don't want stupid, unsupported crap being pushed down people's throats, being taken in by gullible people and children when it's wrong, demonstrably wrong.
Earth is flat on YouTube, where you see a lot of...
Your response is to put a box saying, nope, the Earth is not flat.
Correct.
Okay.
And lastly, if we are so sure about this spinning ball heliocentric model, why are experts saying things like this?
So everything we know about the universe, what we're made of, galaxies, stars, planets, that's all right here. So, according to this chart, we are 96% stupid.
That's quite a neat way of saying it. He's saying that we know, at a guess, about 4% of what there is to know. I mean, it's just a guess. And it's 96% we don't know. It's just illustrating how little we do know. I did notice that flat Earth knowledge wasn't shown on that chart. It would have been a very thin line, wouldn't it?
And just so you know, the globe side has complex answers to all these.
Yeah, we have answers to them, some of which are very complex, all of which you don't seem to be able to grasp.
But it's time you start evaluating evidence for yourself instead of simply accepting someone else's opinion of it.
What, you mean perhaps by just basing your beliefs on some YouTube and internet memes from people who aren't qualified in any way, shape or form?
We all have the same evidence. It's your worldview and your perception of the source that determines your interpretation of that evidence.
Yeah, as in, it comes from NASA, it's a lie. That's what you're saying, isn't it?
The experts are not any closer to the stars than you are. You have the ability to trust your senses and come up with conclusions for yourself.
Yeah, only you need to conduct research and experiments. You're not going to know stuff about distant galaxies just by logic, study astronomy and cosmology and take readings and carry out complex mathematics and all those sort of things.
So what do flat earthers believe? Well, I'll caveat with, we do not have it all figured out.
No. And I'll caveat it with, you haven't got anything figured out. Not even where the sun goes at night.
Nor do we claim to. However, we can prove that there are major issues with the globe model, and that is why we are searching for other solutions and other models which can support the phenomena and science we repeatedly observe.
You've discovered major problems. Any major problem a flat earther comes up with actually has a very simple explanation.
Well, this is the best representation I have so far.
That's the best you got. That's right. That's the best that flat earthers have come up with. And it's a load of crap. Just look at that pool of light cast by the sun. Why is it an oval? Light would travel the same distance in every direction. It would always be a circle. But of course, that then wouldn't match up at all with the daylight portion of the Earth, would it? Now, if you turn that into a sphere, you'll find that the lit portion is half of the sphere and matches all the data.
We believe the center of our motionless world is the North Pole, and an explorer or traveler can still circumnavigate this world from east to west or west to east by performing clockwise or counterclockwise circles around the North Pole. Antarctica is not a continent at the bottom of the globe, but rather a continental ice shelf and mountain range that acts as a shoreline that holds the waters in and potentially supports the dome above. So,
well, for a start, you can navigate around Antarctica. If Antarctica was stretched all round the edge of a flat disk Earth like that, it would be an extremely long way around. Way, way longer than it actually is. And it supports a dome. Any evidence for that, perchance?
no falling off the edge. The sun, moon, and stars are simply lights in the sky. They are.
Then how come there's shadows on the moon around the craters?
Smaller, closer, located inside the Earth's system. They are not objects floating through space that are similar to the Earth. They are part of the Earth, so no comparing us to them. There are many things that people think disprove this model, thus concluding they live on a ball.
What, like evidence?
And there's no way I can address all of them.
Or any of them?
But here's some of the most common objections.
Okay, we're ready.
People say that other planets are round, but as I mentioned earlier, we believe that planets are just lights in the sky, not...
Well, I don't care what you believe. You're showing a picture of Saturn there, and you can see with very good telescopes the patterns of the clouds as they rotate around Saturn. Saturn itself, the main body, casts a shadow onto those rings.
Places you can go. Simply wandering stars that are part of our system, not outside it.
The name Wandering Stars, I get fed up with that. It was just a name that people gave hundreds of years ago for planets because to the naked eye they appear as stars, very bright stars, but unlike the stars, they appeared to move over days and weeks. Hence, Wandering Stars. It's just a name. They are not stars.
Space as you think of it is a lie. People say there are no pictures of the edge. Well, that's because of the Treaty of Antarctica that does not allow for private exploration beyond the 60th parallel.
You can go to Antarctica. You have not read the Antarctic Treaty. It's to do with protecting the environment, stopping pollution and exploitation of its resources, and to prevent it becoming militarized. That's all.
Upheld by the United Nations, whose flag also happens to be the map of the flat Earth.
It's just an icon, that's all. It's a simple picture.
People say sunsets disprove the flat Earth
because sunsets disprove the flat Earth. Because with a flat Earth, the sun could never go below the horizon. A sun could never light up clouds from the bottom. But it does.
We believe the sun stays at a constant height in the sky as it circles above our head, which is true. However, you'll notice on clear days with minimal humidity, the missing water in the atmosphere allows you to see the sun shrink into the distance as it moves away.
Now, it would be interesting to see that same clip of film had it been filmed with a solar filter. then you'll see that the sun does not change size at all.
It appears to go down just like the lights in this hallway appear to go down. However, if the lights in this hallway were considerably higher than the observer, they would appear to shrink very little as they moved away.
Now that's quite interesting. Seeing those lights, as they get further away, of course, they look smaller, but as does the distance between them. So if you had the sun travelling along that path, it would appear to go slower and slower as it reaches the further distances. Only our sun doesn't. It maintains an apparent constant speed across the sky of 15 degrees per hour. Thanks, Bob.
And if we were to create some atmospheric magnification, they could even appear to grow as they approach the horizon, just as the sun does on humid days. And what about gravity? Well, to put it plainly, we don't believe in gravity.
I don't care what you believe in. Jump off a building, then tell me you don't believe in gravity.
We believe things govern themselves based on density, buoyancy, and the electromagnetic force.
Well, with density and buoyancy, you do realise that gravity is an important ingredient there, to the extent that with the buoyancy equation, gravity is one of the variables in it.
All three things that are measurable and provable. Gravity, even though it is sold as a law, is actually just a theory, and it's truly only needed to stick things to a ball or have that ball revolve around another ball.
How wrong you are. It was because of the laws of gravity that the position of Neptune was calculated before its existence was even known about, due to wobbles in Uranus's path. That's slam dunk proof that the laws of gravity work.
Newton himself had doubts about gravity, and in fact, it has never been proven to exist.
Yeah, except so much happens to rely on gravity, which works each and every time.
There was an experiment performed in which gravity waves were supposedly detected from two black holes orbiting each other 1 billion light years away.
What do you mean supposedly? That's LIGO, the Laser Interferometer Gravitational Observatory, and it detected the gravitational waves from two black holes.
Just for some perspective, the sun is only 8 light minutes away. So multiply that distance by 65,000 to get a light year, then multiply it by 1 billion. Then turn out the lights because they're black holes. They claim that everything in the universe gives off gravity waves, including the moon. Yet they did not detect it from the moon. They detected it from two black holes 1 billion light years away.
Yeah, because we're talking about objects that are orbiting each other at massive speed, and they're supermassive objects. The moon isn't big enough for that to be detected.
They were supposedly distorting space-time, and the amount which they claimed to have detected this space-time being distorted was less than the diameter of the nucleus of an atom.
Yeah, so isn't that amazingly impressive? That's science for you.
So, please use your brains the next time you see NASA come up with a big discovery. Look how it's always accompanied with an artist rendering.
Yeah, well, that was a picture of one of the discovered exoplanets. But since we've not been there, and since telescopes can't show us it, you can only have an artist's rendition. And they're not hiding it because it says right next to the picture, artist's rendition.
An image instead of a picture, just like this image of a black hole that they supposedly stitched together from multiple forms of data that just happens to look a lot like the cover of the Soundgarden album, Black.
Well, they've taken the data and they've turned it into an image. What's the problem with that? It's just a representation of it. And who cares if it happens to look like some album? What's that got to do with it? That's not evidence for the shape of the Earth one way or the other.
Black hole sun. Now, the big question, why would somebody cover this up? Well,
a very good question, and one which has been much on my mind in recent weeks.
Because the forces of evil cannot rule the original creation, the one created by God.
What forces of evil? And actually, what God? There's a lot to choose from.
They have to create an artificial one, a perception, in order to remove the true God from the equation, lifting themselves up to be gods.
So it's only one particular God. Let me hazard a guess that it's your God. I'd like to see some evidence of your God. Actually, I'd like to see some evidence of any God.
And they do this by creating a false reality, making people unknowingly exist in it, thus controlling them.
Well, you say they do it by creating a false reality. That's the thing about science. Other people can replicate the experiments, so proving that no one was lying.
Making it possible for everyone, including the 99.9% of people working at NASA, to unknowingly propagate the lie. And that perception is so powerful, it can make someone who is provably standing still tell you that they're spinning 1,000 miles an hour.
Rotating around the centre of the Earth at a rate of once every 23 hours 56 minutes or 15 degrees per hour. Thanks, Bob.
And someone who is standing right side up tell you that they're actually upside down.
There is no up or down. There isn't a top of the Earth or bottom of the Earth. Everywhere seems to be the top of the Earth to the observer. But there is no top or bottom. There is no upside down. Down is towards the centre, wherever you are around the sphere.
Now, I know you have more questions, and we have the answers.
Oh, good. I wish you'd provide some instead of just disbelief and misunderstanding.
And even though your heart may feel like you're hearing truth, I'm sure there are many objections that have arisen in your mind.
Oh, one or two.
Remember, we used to be you. We have already had to deal with those objections.
And you did that by ignoring the evidence and making it up.
Just don't let the projection of someone else's perception get in the way of your pursuit of truth. If you do, it only proves that you're under someone else's control.
Whose control am I under? No one's telling me what to believe.
I pray that you take this seriously because the stakes are high.
The stakes are high. So if I'm wrong and it's not a sphere but actually a flat plane, whether it's round or square with corners, that will change my life exactly how? How important is it?
Don't let anything get in the way of your pursuit of truth because the truth will set you free.
Not anything, not even total evidence against it.
God bless.
Yes, well, thank you for that, WOKETOWN, I think. Well, WOKETOWN, despite your warning, I think I'm going to have to say that I'm still not a flat earther. You've provided us nothing but previously debunked rubbish and memes and misunderstanding and lies. You're convincing nobody. I hope you've all enjoyed this. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. You know it makes sense. Until next time, stay sensible.